Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the LSESU ISOC podcast. Today we have Raja, the president of the ISOC, and Raihan, our head brother this year. Assalamu alaikum, boys.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing, Humza?
Alhamdulillah, man. I'm doing good. Alhamdulillah. How about
Wa
yourself?
alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam, Raihan. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. It's been a hectic week, but alhamdulillah, everything's great.
Yeah, I'm
Rayhan,
guessing.
how's your lockdown?
You know what? Lockdown for me was very beneficial. I learned a lot of stuff. It was a time for me to reflect about a lot of things, and it was beneficial. Like in every situation, there's always a silver lining, and I feel like I've managed to find and weed out what the benefits of lockdown were for myself personally. So, in a nutshell, alhamdulillah, it was good. What about yourself?
With lockdown, I think for me, there was a whole bunch of ups and there was a whole bunch of downs. It was really like a rocky road. But alhamdulillah, I feel like with every single experience, you're gonna, like you said, there's always benefit to derive from something. There's always a silver lining. And I found that silver lining in the ups and in the downs, alhamdulillah. And Ramadan was definitely one of those opportunities which I really benefited from, especially this Ramadan, because we were in lockdown, and it gives you the opportunity to focus on your personal ibadah, and it also gives you the opportunity to sort of like refocus and sort of calibrate your mind to figure out what your goals are, what your passions are, and what your purpose is, and how you're going to be approaching the coming year, especially when you're isolated and you're on your own. So I personally found, just from that element, it was just Ramadan on its own. If I was to say that was the only thing that happened in lockdown, just that on its own was so beneficial for me.
Yeah, and it's amazing, subhanAllah. It's such a unique Ramadan. I don't think we'll ever find something like that in our lifetimes. A Ramadan where you can't leave your house, where you can't, pray in the masjid. You can't have a feeling of community. At the end of the day, for me, Ramadan was all about community. Going to the Taraweeh, meeting my friends, but it was completely different. But because of that, there was so many new benefits to be made. So alhamdulillah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but was not the Ramadan of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions similar to the Ramadan that we had this lockdown? SubhanAllah. And just having that experience of being able to focus on your own personal ibadah, which is the real reason of Ramadan, not necessarily the community aspect, but really having the opportunity for you to focus on your ibadah personally, develop that connection with Allah, and really, warm your heart and bring it closer to Allah, especially through the conversations that you have. I found that such a beneficial experience.
Yeah. I think adding on to one thing Raihan said about Ramadan being so different this year is that it gave us a lot of opportunities. For example, us doing Taraweeh at home. And as a result of that, myself, I just found myself reading so much Quran, and like the opportunity just felt so amazing that on the last night, obviously because we're all doing Taraweeh between our households, it was like almost heartbreaking. It's like, because this might be like the last time that I lead Taraweeh for a long time, because inshallah, if the masjids open up, I'll be back in the masjid. And it's just like, this was such a brilliant opportunity, subhanAllah.
Yeah,
And even,
it's not just that. I don't know about you guys, but every Ramadan, there's just this amazing, on the last night of Ramadan, I think after Asr Salah, I don't know if it's just me, but there's just such a feeling of like despair and like, because Ramadan's finally ending. I don't know if you guys felt that as well, but every Ramadan after Asr, on the final day, it's just it's a beautiful feeling in some sense, because you feel like because it's been such a beloved month to you, and you finally feel that it's going, and it really uplifts your iman and whatnot. But that's
I mean, I can't lie. On a personal note, my last day of Ramadan, and this happens every single year. The second it hits Asr or Maghrib time, nasheeds start playing in my household, and everyone gets so excited because it's Eid now. So in my household, it's like a little bit of the opposite. So everyone's like got all of the energy, and nasheeds are playing, and you're really trying to just get into that mood. And it's good because obviously, sometimes as you go older, and say for example you have kids or even you have nephews and nieces, and they're going to come over to your house, it develops that feeling of that Eid is like the real celebration and the real sort of the celebration for the Muslims. So that's why I thought it was I love having my Eid like that.
Yeah. That's unique. Everyone, you can see you got two really good guests because we both have opposing views clearly. Explain. It's good though, alhamdulillah.
So I want to get straight into what is happening next week, and that's Freshers Week. Now, what's the plans for Freshers Week? Because it's going to be really different to how it was before, from what any Freshers Week that we've known or anyone else in the other years have known. Or to be honest, what any of the first years were looking like forward to is completely different now. So what's in store for us?
I'll start off with Raihan. Raihan probably can give a decent answer, so I'll pass it over to him.
Well, in a nutshell, obviously COVID-19 has made life difficult for all of us. So it's not just for the freshers, it's for us as well. Our experience is going to be different. So a lot of things will naturally, it's going to be remote. And yes, Freshers Week isn't going to be the same as it was last year or as it traditionally is. I'm pretty sure everyone's seen Freshers Stall, which is literally all virtual and online. It's really not the same. If you've been on campus, it's a lot more empty than usual. So yeah, it's going to be different. But ISOC, we will try and do our best to make sure that everyone has a really good experience or can get the most out of this week or these few weeks beginning LSE as much as possible. In terms of some of the events that we have planned, I think, Raja, do you want to mention some of them?
Yeah, definitely. So just starting off on the brother side and the sister side, so they're combined events. The main first event will be, it's going to be happening tomorrow. So we're recording this on a Thursday, and the main event is going to be happening tomorrow, which is joint. And that's going to be the online survival guide. This is going to be this is basically going to be a bunch of undergraduates, a bunch of postgraduates, and both from the brothers and sisters side. And what's going to be happening is it's going to give the freshers an opportunity to be able to ask questions, get an understanding of what campus is like, get an understanding of what being a Muslim at LSE is like, in particular because this time around, this year in particular, you're not going to have that like connection to being able to speak to people, being able to create the conversation and ask those questions to someone.
Yeah.
So the purpose of this event is just to try and bring that back around through a virtual sort of intermediary, you could say. And that's really the crux of this event. Following that, inshallah, on Monday, so Monday the 28th, we're going to be doing campus tours, which will be in groups of 6 to make sure we're in line with the COVID guidance. So we're going to be taking people around campus to show them what campus is like, to show them the different areas of campus, to show them the prayer room and some of the hidden spots that the ISOC likes to use all the time, inshallah. So that will give the Muslims an opportunity to be able to really experience what life is like at LSE, what, if you're going on a normal day, what it would be like, what just being around, campus is like. And then after that, we'll also be having a scavenger hunt for the sisters. Obviously, a sister would be good to talk about that, but the scavenger hunt would just be an opportunity for them to get to know each other in terms of the freshers and meet people. Gives them something to do. Again, also in line with COVID guidance. And the brothers will be doing go-karting, the standard typical ISOC event for freshers. That hasn't changed for the past 3 years or something.
It's good to keep traditions alive.
Yeah, exactly. We can't be innovating, can we? But that's basically that's pretty much it. But the key thing here is that it's understandable that especially when you're doing online events, some people might feel as though it's very difficult for them to get engaged or even do things online. One thing that we need to remember that as Muslims is that we have something that's different to everyone else in the world, and that is that we have Iman, and upon our Iman we develop brotherhood and sisterhood, and that gives us the opportunity and the ability to be able to meet someone completely new and brand new and be able to connect with them in such a way whereby it's like they've been your best friend for your entire life. And that's something so beautiful about our religion, and something that the ISOC tries to replicate in its actions. So inshallah, through the virtual freshers events and the in-person freshers events, that's going to be the key aim, to be able to recreate that environment, the brotherhood and the sisterhood and the community feeling and the community aspect.
Inshallah.
It's really amazing how, when you think about it, just with the people that you're around in university, it can have a really big impact on just how you are as a person. It can improve you as a Muslim as well. Like, I know a lot of brothers who've graduated now or in third year now, who just by virtue of being in this environment, this ISOC environment, they benefited so much. And Humza, I don't know if you want to add on to that. I know you might have some stuff to add on to that, but it's really amazing because I think one of the scholars, we mentioned how it's the way it works, the reason why we keep close friends and we really watch who we keep as friends is because just like how a fire can spread around wooden houses, it's like a good friend, the smell of them can just move around to the people that they're around, and just being with them, you can transfer some of that goodness to yourself automatically. You don't even have to do anything.
Yeah, it goes back to that saying of if you stay at the blacksmiths, you'll come out covered in dust and soot. Whereas if you stay with the perfume artist, you'll come out smelling like cologne and smelling really nice. It's just like the company that you keep. You know, a lot of us, we like to think that we're big men and we have strong minds and nothing can sway us and everything. But in all honesty, I've seen it in so many different cases, almost every case, that you tend to sway in the group that you're in. And it's like really important and a very difficult thing to do. And it's for myself first and foremost is, you know, we have to stop thinking of ourselves as so like powerful and strong, and understand that we are weak, and we need to, you know, really take understand the importance of these kind of things. Because for myself, it definitely benefited me incredibly, hanging around, you know, this specific group of people, and it pushed me in a really nice direction, a direction that I'm happy with. And you know, it made me like, I'm proud of the changes that I made through time, and inshallah I continue to make changes that I'm proud of and develop. And I feel like that's the like benefit of like the ISOC, because you meet people from so many different backgrounds, and you know, a lot of friend groups and everything, they stem from ISOC because it's something that we have in common. And alhamdulillah, subhanallah, it's a perfect thing that we have in common, which is Islam, and only good can come from it.
Yeah. No,
Exactly.
you raise some very, very you raise some very, very key points there, Humza. And of those points is just the idea that when you come into university as an individual, it's an opportunity for you to really be swayed in very, very vast different directions. You could go completely to one end of the spectrum and go into the wrong friendship group, or you can go to the other end of the spectrum, and the other end of the spectrum may not necessarily be good as well, because that might turn you into someone who's completely isolated and doesn't really necessarily mingle with people. And it's important, you know, as Muslims, that we strike the middle balance, we strike the middle path, and alongside that, make sure that what we're doing, it holds to our values, yet we're still able to have fun and be around people that allow us to have fun. And it's about balancing that. And I think that's something that the ISOC really tries to provide, and it's something that the ISOC really thrives itself upon, because it creates that brotherhood, that sisterhood, that opportunity for people to mingle, have conversations, have fun, do things as they want to. But it all does it. They do it in a halal way. And when you're doing it, you constantly are reminded of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is really just amazing. Because when you come out of those gatherings, those events whereby you just had fun, you come out with a stronger sense of iman, which is amazing. It's like, you know, you went to have fun and you come out as a better Muslim. What more could you want, you know?
Yeah, I mean, talking about brotherhood and sisterhood brings me on to my next question, is that, you know, one thing for us is that we had the prayer room and we had SU, certain floors on the library where we all were and would all get together. And, you know, that's where we kind of built that brotherhood. And I'm guessing it's the same on the sister side, where they built their sisterhood. But now, because of COVID, there's so much social distancing, the prayer rooms got new regulations. You know, what's going to happen to substitute this or kind of carry it out in a safe way now?
Honestly, it just does depend on how we as Muslims act on campus and how things basically pan out. Because we haven't really been on campus as of yet, it's very hard to sort of figure out a plan to be able to say, oh, we're going to do things in this way and this is going to be the outcome. Because it could just be that people don't end up coming to campus because of the way the regulations have been outlined, and because of the way the LSE is holding, is allowing us to come onto campus. It might just be that people come onto campus only for their lessons and then they go home, which would mean things would have to be shifted virtually in terms of the brothers' circles and the sisters' circles and the general events that we have. And alongside that, we'd have to try and, you know, figure out a way within that to be able to try and recreate that brotherhood. It's something definitely we have to think about, but I think we have to see how LSE sort of opens its campus first and how people are sort of reacting to it being open.
I would add to that. I know this may sound a bit cliche, but you can still establish good connections and good friendships, even if it's not in person. And I'm not just saying this randomly, but from personal experience, there's been a lot of people who I've met online that I've known for like a year or two, and then I've met them in person only 3-4 years after. And throughout those 3 years, we've had a really good connection. There's even right now people across countries and whatnot that I speak to regularly, and we see each other as having a very good connection, even though physically we haven't ever met for reasons. We live completely on the other side of the world or whatnot. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. And that being said, it doesn't mean we're not going to be on campus. Like I've spoken to Raja before, and I've made it kind of a promise that I want to be on campus as much as I was last year. For two reasons. One is that I actually do the work, because last year, let's be honest, if you're not on campus, you don't do as much work. But also another reason is because I actually want to see new freshers. Anyone that's on campus, anyone that wants to go out and eat, anyone that just needs to chat or anything like that, I want to be there, and I will be there. If you just drop us a message, I'm pretty sure it's not just me. I know a few other brothers from ISOC and potentially even sisters as well. We'll be on campus, and we can be there for you. Because this is one thing that we really want to do this year, is we really want to be there for you. We really want to make this experience a proper experience like it was for us last year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's quite relieving as well for myself and for a lot of people, because some of us were like reliant on people being on campus, because a lot of us will spend a lot of time there, and it's really good to get that balance, and it's a really nice thing to be around people. So if you guys are there, then it should look good.
I still remember. Yeah, I just still remember, last year when we used to stay on campus till like 10, 11 p.m. And that was just being early. It's not like, just thinking back to those days and how we used to feel being like on campus so late and making friends, talking to third years, post-grads, first years, whoever it was. Yeah. Just having those conversations with someone, it really makes you want to come to campus and just be there. It's like a second home for you, and you just love to be around those people.
That's what I was trying to get at. It's like, it's very difficult to describe what campus is for a lot of us, because some of us, what happens is that we end up spending more time on campus than we do at home during term time, and like campus becomes that kind of like that happy place for a lot of people, where they kind of get on with things, and it's part of their like entertainment, their joy, as well as their work, and it's just a place where all three can happen simultaneously. It's like, so moving on from that, so something fun fact for those of you listening is that Raja and Raihan went to the same sixth form, but they started uni at different times, which gives us a different perspective of, how freshers is going to be, because we get the perspective of someone who's taken a gap year, and we get the perspective of someone who went straight in from sixth form. So Raihan, I want to start with you. What was your take on Freshers Week? Like, what was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part, if you want to talk about that? And what was like, just sum up your Freshers Week.
Okay, I think I'm a bit more unique in the sense that I attended a kind of summer school, Saturday school in LSE. So essentially, for the entirety of year 13, I was basically an LSE student. So I knew the president of the ISOC back then. So I essentially did know the campus quite well before I actually came to the campus. But in terms of the actual Freshers Week, what I actually really enjoyed, and again, it sounds cliche, but just meeting people is genuinely really, really good. And I enjoyed it so much because for the first time, so I come from East London, and let's be honest, East London, the demographic is very, very, it's basically just one demographic, majority. So coming here and meeting people from so many different countries, from so many different ethnicities, religions, nationalities, it was amazing, and it really helps in terms of actually experiencing the world out there and experiencing different cultures, experiencing different people, getting to know different people. I genuinely love that. I genuinely always just love meeting new people in that sense. What I didn't maybe about freshers, I think it was really busy on campus, and sometimes it's just so much because as in, so the SU building, what they would do fresher stores in the SU building, and literally to get to the prayer room, it's missions, like absolute missions. And I think it was on Friday. We had Jumu'ah as well, and normally we keep some of the prayer mats in the prayer room. I think Humza, you remember?
Yeah.
mission just to get the prayer mats. Bear in mind, they're checking our IDs, everything, and then we're walking out with prayer mats the size of like our bodies, having to walk all the way to the building, in the middle of campus, in the middle of like all that hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, no, I can understand that fully, because I remember like the SU, it goes up like 15 degrees in temperature during Freshers Week. It's just so hot and people are just rushing around and it's just loud. Like, I'm different. I prefer when it's just calm and relaxed, but some people might like that busy atmosphere. But I think like, as in obviously Rayhan, we did our Freshers Week together. I feel like one thing that's very specific to the ISOC is like Freshers Week kind of lasts like 3 weeks, because it's Freshers Week and then some events kind of overflow, and then you get Charity Week, which is like another burst of events as well. So like that aspect, I remember that was a highlight of my first year. And
just a question for both of you guys actually.
Yeah.
Obviously, my experience for freshers is a little bit different because I took a gap year and I knew a lot of you guys from beforehand. But for both of you, you guys were coming in completely new to the university, and you didn't really know people when you were coming in. Obviously, Rayhan, you knew some of the people in ISOC, but in terms of your own year group and stuff like that, you didn't know anyone. So how did that feel, just meeting new people and having those conversations with other people? And secondly, how did you try and sort of balance that with also meeting older people, so second years and third years?
Rayhan, do you want to answer first?
Rayhan, I think your mic is muted.
My bad. So that was quite a complicated question. There's quite a few things to unpack there. I would just say one aspect. So I would say talking about meeting people that I didn't know that are both older than me and not the same as me, in the sense they didn't come from the same background as me. A big advice, if I could go back, the advice I would give myself, the first year me, would be just meet as many people that aren't part of your social circle. So if it is ISOC, meet as many people that weren't part of ISOC, that aren't part of ISOC. Meet as many people that are part of a different society, be that sports societies or something like that. Although as time did go by, I did start, going outside my comfort zone and going outside my social bubble, and I realized, it's very great doing that. But just in Freshers Week and things like that, experienced as much as possible. I did a few societies. Now that I look back, maybe I could have done a bit more. Maybe I couldn't. Maybe I could. But there's no harm in trying. There's no harm in trying and trying to join as many societies as possible. When it comes to within ISOC, meeting people there, people that I didn't really know. One thing that we found really amazing was just when we used to come Salah, be that Jum'ah or Maghrib Salah, just speak to anyone that you find in the prayer room, and you'd be surprised so many people use it. I've met staff members who've just in the prayer room and established great conversation with them, and that genuinely helps me so much, just knowing that they're on campus, and it helps you a lot. Like, let's say you forget your keys or something, you forget your pass, and the security guard, because it comes to the Salah room, and he just lets you in, he says it's fine. And just knowing people like that, and it was really helpful, just communicating, networking with people after Salah, praying together. And that goes back to the first point. Obviously, we talked about how the bonds of Iman and whatnot are the strongest bonds. And but yeah, Humza, if you want to talk more about on your course and whatnot.
Yeah, like for me, in school I kind of kept to myself, because I didn't really like the people too much at my school. It was just like they were just very different to me. So then coming to uni, I thought like this would be a great opportunity for me to just meet different people, and I really enjoy talking to new and different people and just learning anything about anyone, to be honest. So I made myself kind of rules. So I'm gonna meet X amount of people every day, or try and talk to these kind of people every day. And like I did a thing where I wouldn't go in a room without talking to someone in that room. And more often than not, the people who I met, they were lovely. They were so friendly, and the conversation would just flow. And I feel like a lot of people have that fear of starting the conversation. But what you don't realize is that from just introducing yourself, you can start a conversation. And if you start a conversation and the person is not reciprocating, then you can move on, and there's no love lost, there's no harm done. It's really not that deep. But some people fear that they fear that it'll be embarrassing or something, but it really isn't. More often than not, the person who isn't cooperating, they feel embarrassed themselves, for like, oh, why didn't I carry that conversation? So I think, it was just when it comes to meeting older people as well, it was so easy in the ISOC. Like everyone was so nice. The second and third years, the way how we all just gelled together, it was honestly like they were older siblings. The way how we all worked together. One thing I wanted to ask is, Raja, what about you? What was your Freshers Week like?
So my experience of freshers was I had both the experiences, because in my gap year I actually started off at SOAS and I studied there for a couple of months, and I was doing the same course there, politics and economics, and so I experienced the freshers events whereby I was completely new. I knew no one at the university, because none of my friends went to SOAS with me. Brand new to the campus, I didn't know who I wanted to meet. I didn't know who I was going to speak to. It was very, very strange. Literally, all I did was I went to the prayer room. I sat down after praying my salah, and I just saw a random third year sitting there, and I just went up to him and I said salam, and that was the first conversation that I had with anyone in the entire campus. And I just thought it was like, it was amazing, because just having that experience and being able to talk to someone, just as Humza mentioned, it really is just like, as a Muslim, you have the ability to do that, and you can really open up, and you can even do that with non-Muslims as well, because you'll realize so many people, they're so friendly and open to have that conversation with you. It's not a problem at all. They're more than willing to do so, and we just need to be open and willing to have those conversations and talk to people. Just don't be afraid to make those conversations. However, when I was coming to LSC, of course, I already had the experience of freshers, and I already knew a lot of the people on campus, such as Raihan, Humza, and a couple of other people, which had meant that for me, I was coming in a position whereby, because I knew a lot of people, I sort of could fit in very easily. The tricky part was actually trying to meet freshers and trying to connect with other freshers and being able to develop conversations with them. And literally, because I'm a very confident person, I literally just went up to random freshers and I just said, hello, how are you doing? Assalamu alaikum, what are you studying? And creating the conversation like that. And that's pretty much what I did. But what that allowed me to do was, as an individual, I was able to meet a bunch of people, and I tried my best to remember their names. And if you can remember people's names, when you see them again, and you just see them and you remember their name, you can literally just go up to them and say, how are you doing? I remember you, etc., etc. And they appreciate the fact that you just remembered their name, and it develops that connection with someone from the onset. And you're able to just meet a whole bunch of people just to do that, and even just develop strong relationships. And that was the thing that I think set me apart in terms of how I approached freshers for the second time. It was just being able to go up to people, ask for their name, have a small convo with them, and then carry that convo along the second time I met them, and just take it further.
Yeah, I would just add one small thing to that.
Yeah,
I understand, like, a lot of freshers coming in, they might be, people that are retakes or people that took gap years or things like that. I would say don't let that put you off. So don't think that the people that you're starting with are going to be really young and you can't fit in with them. I'll be honest, one of my close friends that I met at LSE, he's like 2-3 years older than him. We always joke. But really, we gel on so well, honestly, and that age barrier is not a problem. And you realize people in my classes, I was in one of my classes with a guy who I thought was the teacher. That's how old he looked. You realize once you come university, age doesn't really become a barrier in that sense anymore. So what I would say, come in, and even if you've taken 2-3 gap years or anything like that, don't worry. Just don't let age shouldn't stop you from communicating with people that are younger than you, even older than you, or things like that.
Yeah, I think adding on to what Raihan said, it really doesn't mean like you set. I think this is the case with university, and you two may agree with me, is that you only set your own boundaries and limitations when it comes to almost anything in university, how much you socialize and everything. Like I've seen so many odd relationships that would look odd from like perspective, and then when you just see how they coordinate and everything, it's just so normal. Like I've seen first years friends with postgrads who are like 30-year-olds with families who've come back to do their masters, and like there's no barriers. Everyone is just friendly and looking to just be nice to each other, and it's just a really good. You won't find an opportunity like this where people are willing to talk to you and people are willing to be open. So I'd say to all of you who are coming, and regardless of whatever background you're coming from, just talk to people. And there's a lot of students in this one place, I guarantee you that you'll find someone who you will get along with. Because it's like it's almost impossible to think that you talk to everyone here and no one will vibe with you. Because I found myself in my experience, I have a certain group of friends who vibe with me on a certain set of subjects. Let's just say sports. And then another group of people, they'll vibe with me on the TV shows that I watch. And then another group of people, they'll vibe with me on the academic and career side of things. So you always find people who are interested in the same things as you. And the only way that you'll be able to know that is by talking to people. So in LSE, we have 2 terms, obviously, or 3 terms. We have Michaelmas term, Lent term, and then the summer term. Now, at the end of Michaelmas term, we have our Jan exams, and then we have Lent term. So, Roger, what I wanted to ask you is, bearing in mind that you did have the whole COVID mess when you were coming into your Lent term.
I mean, I didn't have COVID myself, but
no, yeah, society, COVID-19 was just emerging at the time. What was your mindset like going into Lent term with regards to academics and social life, and how was it different to your mindset in Michaelmas term?
Okay, Jazakallah khair. This, because the time period was changing so rapidly, every day something new was happening. Every day the government was releasing new guidelines and everything was changing. It was very difficult for me to be able to, my mindset was constantly changing as to how I wanted to approach things and what I really wanted to do. But towards the end of it, there were 2 main things that really stuck out to me, or 2 main things that I really wanted to focus on and keep on top of, basically. The first one was, obviously, I just had my Jan exams. Alhamdulillah, my results were okay. They weren't the best, but they weren't the worst as well. So they were in the middle, you could say. So I knew there was a lot of room for improvement, and I knew I needed to focus more on my exams and my revision. And as a student, naturally, you should be focusing on your exams and revision as well. So I knew that regardless of whether my exams were happening in person or online, or what was going to happen, I needed to be in a position where if I were to sit those exams, I would be able to improve my grade. So one thing that I definitely was focusing on, and I really had constantly, been thinking about, was my exams and how I was going to revise. And I was setting up a plan to be able to revise and actually get through the content and be prepared for the exam. So that was my first main focus. The second one was actually, due to the COVID situation, there were a lot of 3rd years and a lot of postgrads who were graduating LSE, but we didn't necessarily have the ability to be able to sit down with them, have a few final events with them, meet them and have those conversations with them to be able to, I guess, say their goodbyes, you could say, give them the opportunity to have closure. And as a Muslim, you think about other people and you think about your Muslim brothers and you think about, how they might be feeling. And one thing that I realized was that a lot of 3rd years and postgrads, they're going to be leaving LSE with a chapter sort of unclosed because they didn't have the ability to be able to experience that closure. So I really wanted to just sit down with a lot of 3rd years, a lot of postgrads, create conversations, go to dinner with them before the lockdown, of course, and, be able to just learn from them, have their wisdom and give them the ability to talk about their experiences. So 1, I could learn from them and have lots of benefit. And 2, develop a brotherhood that may last even after LSE. So when they've left and they've gone on to do their things beyond LSE, be that work or setting up their own businesses or whatever, I'm able to maintain that connection. And 3, for them to be able to actually talk through the benefits and the experiences that they had at LSE and how it affected them and how they could help us to navigate through those experiences.
Yeah. That's an interesting take. I think for me, it was quite similar to you as well. It's Lent term, start to focus on academics, and then the fact that we didn't know when it would be the last time we would be seeing some of our, fellow students, and that was I don't know, to me, a couple of us were getting quite emotional because of how close everyone is and everything.
You started crying, didn't it, Humza?
Hey, we don't talk about that, okay? But what I want to ask you, Raja, is what was your highlight of your first year?
My highlight? Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult question. I don't really have, as in, this is a proper cliche, but I don't necessarily have highlights. I like to take every memory as it is, and I think of the benefits from every memory. But when I think back to a year, I can't say, oh, this is one thing that stuck out. I just have a bunch of different memories that I thought were all amazing. Freshers was amazing. Charity Week was amazing. Being able to go to the Charity Week dinner, it was really good. I love that experience. Similarly, the give soup kitchens, just being able to have conversations with people who had a completely different experience to me. You know, some of these people, they had been on the streets for so many years, and just having those conversations, you can learn so much. And all these different memories and experiences, they all added up to be an amazing year for me. And I generally found it to be a much more of a year which basically helped me improve both in my self-development and in terms of my Islam as well. So I can't really say I have one particular memory that stands out, but the year itself was like a really good year, and I had a lot of benefit from the various memories that I do have.
Man, you can tell how much of a politician Abdullah is. The way you skipped that question was amazing.
What do you mean, bro?
I love it. He dodges the question, so he answers what he wants to answer.
I'll be honest, if I were to answer that question, honestly, Snowdon. So when we went to Snowdon with Charity Week, both my first year and second year, it is an absolutely fantastic experience. It doesn't sound fantastic. You're stuck on a coach with 30, 40 people and everyone's sweating and whatnot. But it's fantastic after. It's like a lot of these things. It's difficult in the moment. It's really a metaphor for life. And it's difficult in the moment, but only afterwards. Once it's finished, you reflect back, you think back, and you think, you know what? That actually wasn't too bad. That actually was pretty good. So that's unfortunately we're not doing it this year because
that's why I feel bad whenever, because I would say for me, Snowdon's probably up there as well. And whenever any fresher asks me like, what's your highlight? I'm like, Snowdon, but you're not doing it this year, so peak on you. I just feel so bad. Like, I'm trying to find something that
the freshers inshallah. Nah, inshallah, we actually we're planning something with a couple of organizations. So inshallah, if the COVID situation dies down, if we can in Lent term towards the start of it, we might be able to actually do a Snowdon trip. And obviously the weather might be a little bit better then, so it might be better.
You heard it here first,
so let's
guys.
See, inshallah. Yeah, let's see. We're gonna try and organize, but no promises as of yet.
Now, Raihan, obviously, like me and you being in the same year, I feel like there's a lot like we can talk about this, about Lent term. Like, what was your take coming into Lent term after Jan exam? So obviously we had a normal Lent term where we had our full 11 weeks and not everyone was losing their mind. Alhamdulillah. So what was it like for you? What was like the difference between Michaelmas term and Lent term? What was the things that you were trying to do in Lent term that were different to Michaelmas term?
Yeah. So I presume you mean first year, right?
Yeah, first year, of course.
Okay. Yeah. So with me, I think I was quite the opposite to Abdullah. I actually did quite good in my January exams, but unfortunately, that made me quite complacent. So I did good, and then I thought, these exams are not even that hard. Little did I know the summer exams were like 70% harder than the January exams, and I didn't perform as well as I would have hoped.
Just 1 second, Raihan. What Raihan just said is the most important thing I think you'll hear. That Lent term is a lot harder than Michaelmas term, so don't get complacent.
100%. It's like AS and A2, year 12 and year 13. Year 12 content is so easy, and then you start year 13 and you realize it's like something completely different. It's just something else. That's kind of what you could say Michaelmas term and Lent term is like. But I guess one thing that I did try and do is, starting LSE, my whole timetable was not the best. I had a few 9 a.m.s, and I'll be honest, some of the lectures at 9 a.m. I basically missed a few of them because I overslept. But what I wanted to do is once Lent started...
Was that a few or all?
Maybe every single one.
I was in one of his classes. It was like 80%.
But listen. But I'll be honest, afterwards, once we came back, I did actually fix it. So I did actually like mentally it helps. So you have a break. I think is it like a 1 month break, I believe, right?
Yeah, 4 weeks.
Yeah, you come back and mentally you can really like give yourself time to rethink and try and fix your sleeping pattern. Try and start uni from a new perspective. Go to all your classes, go to all your lectures and things like that. I think that's what I tried to do. I did it somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, you did it because you had to. You got that email, so.
I basically was told I should go to everything, so I'm getting bored. So, but look, the wisdom is still there. The main point is still there.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think I agree with you completely. My Jan exams, they were okay. They weren't amazing, but they were all right. And it was just this thing of like, for me, first year Lent term, it was like Michaelmas term is where you do all your experimenting and you're trying different things and you're getting used to the environment. And then come Lent term, I kind of had an idea of, all right, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I'm not comfortable with. I'm happy studying this amount and everything. And it was just about, again, trying to find that balance of what's good when it comes to studying and what's good enough when it comes to socializing. And like me, myself, I made a mistake where I was too relaxed on the academic side of things, similar to Rayhan. I mean, to be honest, we spent most of our time in Lent term together because once you see a group of people in the prayer room after Maghrib, that's it. You're not doing any more work for the evening because we'd always go out or something, which is a really fun part of my Lent term. But then it also led to me not doing so well in my summer exams. But it was just this thing of like, one thing I can take away from my Lent term is that you should work your socializing around your studies. Because what I did is I tried to work in my extracurriculars and my, and my socializing. I had that cemented and I tried to work my studying around that. And I feel like that was a completely wrong thing to do. And I think there's something that, I tried to employ this year, and alhamdulillah, this year was a lot more solid for me in terms of academics. Now, obviously, Rayhan, one thing is that in Lent term, we had obviously our end of term events. We had AD and we had the barbecue, and, that kind of brings up like, what was your highlight of first year? Because those two are highlights to me, but obviously you said Snowden. Other than Snowden, like more focused on Lent term, what would you say were your highlights?
So I would say the end of year events were genuinely really nice. So there was two things, if you allow me to do two highlights.
Go for it.
The first highlight was the barbecue that we had. And this is something, by the way, freshers, we might have a barbecue. I'm not promising anything, but it's possible if everything calms down. But we had a barbecue. You see the park next to the LSE, what's it called? Lincoln's Inn?
Lincoln's Inn.
We booked it out and we did a big barbecue and like so many people came. We even had people outside ISOC, they came. And we had, so the president at the time, his dad actually came and cooked a lot of the food and it was some really amazing food.
Man.
One of the best I've had, yeah. But yeah, it was just so good. It was so good. It was just the vibes there were amazing. It was a sunny day. Everyone was just vibing. It was just good. Secondly, my second highlight was during Ramadan. We used to eat iftar together sometimes, and we used to just it was just so good. Like, we used to pray together, and then we used to break our fast together, and someone would do the adhan. And what we do is that we put the adhan on a loudspeaker so that it actually, and there will be no one else on in the SU, by the way. And so the adhan would be like echoing across the entire floor. We're talking about in the canteen and whatnot. And then we'd go up and we'd pray together, and then we'd eat and we just chill after. And it was just, because it was exam season, I would stay late anyway, and it was just really nice to get that break with some of the brothers, and it was good.
That was vibes.
And again with that, if everything calms down next year, we could potentially do the same thing next year, inshallah. Make dua that everything comes down.
Inshallah. Yeah, I mean, I remember what a couple of us brothers would do is after iftar, we would all go to the masjid to pray tarawih together, and then sometimes would go out after that as well. So like, and
Did you pray all of the rakat? Did you pray all of them, bro?
You were in charge of that, Rayhan. So you tell me.
What was it? Hamza was 4 rakat, gang, right?
Listen, there's a certain brother with us who wouldn't let us pray. Okay, it was very. I'm not gonna drop any names, but it was very difficult to concentrate. So that's what it had to be. So yeah, man. Like, that's one thing I'm so regretful that we didn't have this year. But obviously, like you guys said at the beginning, we had our benefits of having Ramadan at home. Now, this is just the last thing that I'd like to finish up on. Is that what is one thing to both of you that you wish you did more of in your first year? Think of it as an advice that you can give to the freshers.
Hands down, study more. Like, there's nothing else that I could have done more of in first year. That was my biggest regret. I need to study more, and I need to spend less time playing around and, socializing. I think the main reason for that was because I wasn't able to balance my time. So if it is one thing, balance your time, make sure you're doing your studies with that when you're balancing your time, and find a way to prioritize and, really, really put focus on both socializing and being able to make sure you're on top of your studies. That's my, I guess, main thing that I would, if I could go back, I'd really try and do.
Yeah.
What about you, Raihan?
Bro, I'll be honest with you, eat less. My first year, I said yes to every single motive. Even if it was chicken cottage for the second time of the day, I would say yes to it. And you guys know I gained some mad weight. Alhamdulillah, I've lost a lot. But but yeah, like don't say yes to every single motive. Sometimes you need to put your foot on the brakes and say, you know what, I need to study. Obviously, my main advice isn't to eat less, but it's more to just sometimes motives can weigh. Like you need to balance between the two. You might get to a point where you're in library and someone says come, and it's so like you really want to go, but you realize that you actually do have to do work, and you will keep saying to yourself, oh, this time I'll just go this time and then I'll work tomorrow, I'll do it this time, and then it gets to the end of the year, you realize, you know what, I messed up. Like I really didn't give enough time to my studies. Like I should have done a lot more. I know it's not made better by the fact that only, I think, how much is the first year worth? I think one credit.
1/9.
Yeah, 1/9.
Yeah. But honestly, like what you just think it like this: if I get a 2-1 or a first this year, and then next year for 3-year degrees I'm talking about, and then for next year if I just get 4 2-1s, in my third year I can literally relax. Like I've already secured my 2-1, right? I'm right in that, right? So so keep it like that. Otherwise, what can happen is you don't do good in your first year, second year you do okay, and then third year you're stressing because you haven't secured your 2-1 yet, and at the same time you're applying grad schemes, at the time you're applying jobs and all of this stuff. So that would, you'll see it in that aspect, and it definitely helps out like that.
Yeah, I think that's for me. Like I'm on a really similar page to you, Rayhan. Like as everyone will say, first year isn't important, but honestly, for me right now, if my first year was as good as I had hoped it to be, I would be in a much more comfortable situation. But now, like my third year is really important, a lot more important than it could have been had I have put in the hours of work during my first year and just made it easier for myself. Because it's not even, I have friends who they worked a decent amount. They went out as much as I did, but it's when they actually sat down to study, they actually studied. Whereas when I sat down to study, I was sitting with friends, or I'll be getting up every 5 minutes to talk to someone. A 10-minute conversation will turn into an hour and then a motive. So it's just like about finding your element. And it's okay to say no to after a couple people, and just to focus on your study, because I think at the end of the day you got to be very conscious of yourself and what you're okay with and what you're happy with. And if everyone's telling you go out, but you know that if you don't study it's going to come back to bite you and it's going to make you feel worse in the long run, then you got to be able to back yourself and be like, nah guys, I have to study. Because one thing I can say to you is that when you say no and you study, more often than not, those same people who went out, they'll come to you in 2 weeks' time saying, oh man, I wish I've been working as hard as you, and guess you up and stuff, which is, it's often the case. So I think, don't underestimate the value of your studies, but also, it's not too much of a burden. You just got to think about it. Like, as I was talking about it to someone else, but when we come into uni, we have all of this free time, right? But if you think about it, if we watch all of our lectures in the weekest set and do our homeworks, let's just say that's 4 hours per module, and we do 4 modules. That's 8 hours of, that's like 16 hours of work, because lectures take 2 hours. Give or take, that's like 16 hours of work a week, which is nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, like, just one final tip, and like a serious tip from me. Treat your lectures, your classes, and your office hours, all of that, treat that as mandatory. So, like, that you have to go to it. Because honestly, if I could go back, like, once I started analyzing my exam performance, I look back and I think I could have done a lot better, not just last year, but even the year before that, had I treated office hours like actual classes. Had I gone to my office hours every single week in, week out, had I gone to the extra homework sessions and whatnot, I think I would have done a lot better, would be in a better position than I am right now.
Yeah. So, Reggie, you got anything else to add? Anything else to ask?
No, to be honest, I think that's pretty much it. There's
Alright.
nothing else really I can add, inshallah. And to be honest, you guys have hit the nail on the head. And the points that I was trying to make regarding balancing your time, you guys have just gone into depth and explained it. So jazakallahu khairan.
Yeah, I think so. We've been finished off on academics. I think it would be a nice time to add that, for those of you who are joining the ISOC and become members, that allows you to have access to the ISOC drive, where there's a wealth of notes from, some incredibly smart people who've put notes together, and, through the generosity, they've given it to us to share with everyone. And if you guys are in need of any links, just send a message on any of the group chats. And, a lot of the third years and the second years have these links. So if you just ask for them on the group chats, they'll be more than happy to plug you and help you out, or guide you in the right direction to someone who could help you out when it comes to academics. And, there you go. That's another benefit of being part of the ISOC. You get academic help, spiritual help, social help, and everything. All right, boys. Raihan, you got any last remarks?
Yeah, I mean, we've plugged the ISOC so much this podcast, and if the membership doesn't go up, then Humza, it's on you.
Yeah, honestly. But guys, jazakallah khair for your time. It's been really nice talking to you. And, mashallah, you guys have taught me a lot. And inshallah, you benefit all these guys who are going to be listening. So, yeah, thank you very much. And I will see you guys on campus, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.